For this episode, we're going to talk about creating classes in Google Classroom. So, we have the class that we enrolled in last time. Now it's time to create our own class as a teacher. That's why we have that wonderful teacher account, and that's why it's very important when you first create and log into Google Classroom, you chose teacher rather than student. We're going to go back to this plus sign here, and if you put your mouse over it, it'll say create or join a class. We can click on it, and this time we're going to say create a class. Now, there are three options. Let's go over each of these in turn before we do anything. First is the class name. It's required. This is the name of the class that you're going to be teaching. Now, you may be tempted to name it just maybe English 10 or English 6 or Math 7, but think very carefully about this because this name is very important for how it will look on the student's page. Now, you'll also notice that the section and subject are empty and not required. But it is highly recommended that you give it a section and a subject to help you and your students to better filter through all the classes they may be part of and all the classes that you will be creating. So, let's take a look. Let's type in a name and then let's break it down. Okay, you'll notice that I gave my name to a class based on the subject I'm teaching, and I'm giving it the school year. This helps me remind me what year this class is being taught, because if you think about it, Google Classroom is going to hold all of these assignments and tasks for one specific school year, and it's not useful after that because new students will have arrived, so new students will need to join the class while the old ones need to leave. And so we will be creating new classes every single term that you have new students. For some of you, this may be once a year. For others, it may be twice a year. And for others, it may be you might have classes every quarter, which means you will be creating new classes every quarter. So it's good to have the term label on here as well. So maybe your class doesn't last a whole year. Maybe your school for 10th grade lasts only a semester. So you can say S1 at the end. That'll help distinguish between your second semester class, which is also in the 16-17 school year. For period, simply give it a period name. You can say period 3, you can say P3, whatever helps you remember which English class is this that I'm teaching. And you notice that when I started touching the subject, it gave me some suggestions. You can follow the suggestions here, or you can be like me and say, no thanks, I want to keep the suggestion that I have, and I'm going to click on the blank space to lock that in. And when I'm done, I simply click create. So maybe it's not English. Maybe this is world history. And I'm going to change this to social studies. I don't like this name, but so I'm going to say social studies and click off to the side, and it'll just stay the way that I have it. And you'll simply click create. It says creating, and there it is. Now, you probably have noticed that when you go into Google Classroom for the first time in a new area, it'll give you a kind of a tour. You can follow those tours, but we will address most of those options throughout these episodes. And this is your class right here. We're going to explore all of the options within this classroom on later episodes, but so far, that's it. I do want to point to one little detail about Google Classroom now that you've created your classes. And to do that, I need to go to About, and I'm going to click on this Google Drive folder link right here. Now notice it took me to a folder that has my name, but that folder is stored under a folder called Classroom. Now in here you'll notice that there is test class, which is the class I'm enrolled in, and there is a world history class. The first thing that I want to point out about this structure is please do not delete this folder called Classroom. In fact, it is literally impossible for them to recreate this folder for you, and you will lose all of your abilities to operate Google Classroom if you delete this Classroom folder. So if you're in your drive and you say, you know what, I want to call this something else, please don't. Just leave it the way it is so that it works the way it's supposed to. Secondly, you'll notice that as a teacher, I have a folder with a little person on it. That means this folder is shared. And this folder for my test class does not. Well, that makes sense because as a student, my work belongs to me and the teacher who has access to my folder. And as a teacher though, my folder is shared because all the data in there is going to be shared with students. And I want to make sure to point this out so that one, you don't delete this class, and two, you understand the dynamic of these two folders. One is a shared folder, one is not. And we're going to get into the nuance of this in later episodes. But for now, this is how you create your very own Google Classroom class.